In a gleaming Silicon Valley boardroom, a brilliant strategist was about to overhear the conversation that would shatter her corporate faith. What started as late-night presentation prep took a shocking turn when she discovered her CEO's true opinion of her worth. Maya Williams wasn't your typical employee. For 3 years, she had mastered corporate strategy while hiding her fluency in Mandarin, a secret that would become her greatest weapon. When David Morrison dismissed her as replaceable in what he thought was private conversation, Maya began planning the most calculated CEO takedown in tech history. The corporate world would never underestimate hidden intelligence again. Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from. And if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed, because tomorrow, I've saved something extra special for you. Maya Williams' fingers paused above her keyboard as she reviewed the final slide of tomorrow's board presentation. The Technova AI conference room stretched around her, mahogany table gleaming under the overhead lights. 3 months of strategic analysis condensed into 30 slides that would determine their AI platform's future. The office hummed with Silicon Valley ambition even at 9:30 Thursday evening. Maya had always been one of those dreamers who believed technology could bridge divides rather than create them. 3 years ago, Technova's mission to democratize artificial intelligence had spoken to something deep within her. She adjusted the market penetration timeline, drawing on insights from her Beijing years. The AI customer service platform represented her vision, technology that revolutionized efficiency while maintaining human empathy. Her Mandarin fluency and cultural understanding had shaped strategies David would never comprehend, though he'd never know it. Voices drifted from David Morrison's corner office. Maya recognized the CEO's distinctive laugh, the one he used when feeling particularly clever. Amanda Foster's quieter responses provided counterpoint to his animated tones. Maya returned to her laptop, but something about their conversation nagged at her attention. The intimacy suggested David felt completely secure in his privacy. She'd learned long ago that people revealed their truest selves when they believed no one was listening. Please. David's voice carried clearly through the quiet office. Maya's hands froze. Mandarin. The language she'd spent 2 years mastering, deliberately kept hidden to avoid being pigeonholed into Asia-related projects. Her heart raced as she processed his words. She thinks she's smart, but... Maya thinks she's irreplaceable, David continued in Mandarin, tone carrying casual dismissiveness. But honestly, Amanda, people like her are a dime a dozen in Silicon Valley. Smart enough to do the work, but they don't understand the vision required to build something truly revolutionary. The words hit like a physical blow. 3 years of dedication, 60-hour weeks, presentations that shaped company direction, reduced to replaceable. But people like her cut deepest. The implication poisoned everything she'd believed about her place here. Amanda responded hesitantly in Mandarin. But sir, her strategic insights have been invaluable to our market positioning. David's laugh turned sharp. Amanda, you're too kind. Maya's good at organizing other people's ideas, I'll give her that. But the kind of leadership we need for the next phase, someone like her wouldn't understand the pressures, the compromises, the vision required. She's too. He paused. Limited. Something cold settled into Maya's chest where hurt had been moments before. Years believing her work would speak for itself, that competence would overcome bias. The naive faith that sustained her through countless overlooked contributions crumbled in the space of a few Mandarin phrases. Through the glass walls, she could see Amanda's profile. The secretary's body language told its own story, the forward lean suggesting engagement, but shoulder tensions speaking of discomfort. Amanda understood every word, and Maya recognized in her posture someone witnessing what they wished they could unhear. Maya's mind began working with methodical precision that made her an effective strategist. David thought he was having a private conversation in a language providing perfect cover. He had no idea her Mandarin fluency extended beyond basic business pleasantries. That assumption would be his first mistake. She quietly closed her laptop and gathered her materials, movements careful and deliberate. Tomorrow's board meeting would proceed as planned. David would present the AI platform strategy Maya had crafted, taking credit for insights emerging from her Asian market analysis, cultural nuances he couldn't begin to grasp. But something fundamental had shifted. The loyal employee who walked into this conference room was gone, replaced by someone who finally understood the game's rules. Maya slipped her laptop into her bag and moved toward the door, footsteps silent on polished concrete. Passing David's office, she caught Amanda's eye through the glass. Their gazes met, and Maya saw something unexpected, a flicker of recognition, perhaps apology. The elevator doors closed with a soft whisper, carrying her down from the 20th floor. But her mind was already ascending, mapping the corporate landscape with new eyes. She'd been playing chess while David thought he was playing checkers. Fluorescent lights cast harsh shadows as Maya walked to her car. She wasn't thinking about the drive home, tomorrow's presentation, or even the crushing betrayal burning in her chest. She was thinking about power, about assumptions, about the devastating mistake of underestimating someone because you couldn't see their true capabilities. David Morrison was about to learn a lesson that would reshape everything he thought he knew about replacement value. Maya's coffee had grown cold as she sat in her apartment's home office, surrounded by printouts that would have looked innocuous to any casual observer. Employee satisfaction surveys, board member biographies, investor reports. The building blocks of corporate intelligence spread across her dining table like pieces of a complex puzzle. 3 days had passed since the overheard conversation. 3 days of maintaining her professional facade, while her mind worked with the methodical precision of a chess grandmaster planning moves dozens of steps ahead. She had delivered her presentation to the board with the same polished competence they expected, watching David take subtle credit for insights that were entirely her own. The irony wasn't lost on her. David thought he was using her strategic mind to advance his vision, never realizing she was now using that same mind to map his weaknesses. Her laptop screen displayed Technova's organizational chart, but Maya saw it differently now, not as a hierarchy, but as a network of relationships, dependencies, and pressure points. Sarah Goldberg, the lead investor, held significant influence over board decisions. Jennifer Walsh, the independent board member, had experience with CEO transitions at her previous companies. Marcus Johnson, the CTO and David's co-founder, controlled the technical backbone that made their AI platform possible. Maya's phone buzzed. Rebecca's name appeared on the screen, and Maya felt a familiar tightness in her chest. Her sister possessed an almost supernatural ability to sense when something was wrong. "You've been avoiding my calls," Rebecca said without preamble when Maya answered. "I've been busy. The product launch is..." "Maya." Rebecca's voice carried the authority of someone who'd spent years in courtrooms. "I know when you're in crisis mode." "What happened?" Maya found herself explaining the overheard conversation, the casual dismissal, the phrase, "people like her," that had shattered her corporate faith. Rebecca listened without interruption, but Maya could hear her sister's breathing change, the sharp intake that signaled rising anger. "You need to file a discrimination complaint," Rebecca said immediately. "What David said constitutes hostile work environment at minimum." With witnesses and clear evidence of bias, Amanda wasn't exactly an unwilling participant in the conversation. She can be compelled to testify. "Maya, you have legal recourse here. Don't let him get away with this." Maya stared at her organizational chart, seeing the careful web of relationships she'd been mapping. Legal action would take years. And even if I won, what then? A settlement? A letter in his file? He'd still be CEO, and I'd be the woman who sued the company. You'd be the woman who stood up for herself. I'd be the woman who was too emotional to handle corporate pressure. The narrative writes itself, Rebecca. Silence stretched between them. Maya could picture her sister in her downtown Detroit law office, surrounded by case files of people fighting systems much larger than themselves. Rebecca had always believed in the power of institutional justice, in forcing change through proper channels. "So what's your alternative?" Rebecca asked finally. Maya's finger traced the lines connecting board members to investors, to executive leadership. "I'm going to replace him." The silence that followed was so complete, Maya wondered if the call had dropped. "Maya, listen to yourself. I'm talking about proving that David Morrison is exactly as limited as he accused me of being." Except he's the one who can't see past his assumptions. This isn't you. The Maya I know believes in merit, in working within systems to change them. The Maya you know was naive. The words came out harsher than intended. I've spent 3 years believing that excellence would speak for itself. But David will never see my contributions as anything more than good execution of his vision. So I'm going to show him what vision really looks like. Rebecca's voice softened. And what happens to who you are in the process? The question hung in the air as Maya ended the call. She returned to her documents, but Rebecca's words echoed in her mind. What was she willing to become to achieve justice? Or was this about justice at all? A soft knock interrupted her thoughts. Maya opened her door to find Amanda Foster standing in the hallway, looking more nervous than Maya had ever seen her. I hope you don't mind, Amanda said. I got your address from HR. I told them I had documents to deliver. Preparing and narrating this story took us a lot of time. So if you are enjoying it, subscribe to our channel. It means a lot to us. Now back to the story. Maya stepped aside, allowing Amanda into her apartment. The secretary's eyes took in the scattered papers, the organizational charts, the careful documentation of corporate structure. You understood, Amanda said. It wasn't a question. Every word. Amanda's shoulders sagged slightly. I've been losing sleep. What he said, it wasn't right. But you didn't object. I'm on an H-1B visa, Amanda said quietly. Objecting to my sponsor's opinions isn't exactly career suicide. It's deportation. Maya studied the younger woman's face, seeing something she recognized. The careful calculation of someone navigating systems designed to diminish them. What David doesn't know is that my MBA thesis was on corporate governance transitions. I've seen this pattern before. Founders who mistake early success for permanent competence. He thinks speaking Mandarin makes him culturally sophisticated, Amanda continued. But he has no idea how much he reveals about himself when he thinks no one important is listening. Maya felt a shift in the conversation's dynamics. This wasn't just an apology visit. What else has he said? Enough to make me realize that his opinion of my capabilities isn't much higher than his opinion of yours. The difference is, I don't have your options. Maya looked at her organizational chart again, seeing a new connection she hadn't considered. Amanda wasn't just David's secretary. She was his window into Asian markets, his cultural translator, his assumed ally in conversations he thought were private. What if you did have options? Maya asked. Amanda's eyes sharpened. What do you mean? I mean that people in transition often need new executive assistants. People who understand not just the language, but the culture of building something better. Understanding passed between them, not an explicit agreement, but the recognition of mutual interest. Amanda had access to David's calendar, his private communications, his unguarded moments. Maya had strategic vision and growing determination. The product launch is in 6 weeks, Amanda said carefully. A lot can happen in 6 weeks. After Amanda left, Maya returned to her dining table. But the puzzle pieces looked different now. She had her first ally. And more importantly, she had intelligence capabilities she hadn't anticipated. Her phone buzzed with a text from Rebecca. Whatever you're planning, don't lose yourself in it. Maya stared at the message, then at her reflection in the dark window. She was already changing, had been changing, since the moment she heard David's casual dismissal. The question wasn't whether she'd lose herself. It was whether the person she was becoming would be someone worth the cost. Maya chose the corner table at Phil's Coffee deliberately, public enough to seem casual, isolated enough for private conversation. Alex Rodriguez arrived precisely on time, his characteristic punctuality one of the traits that had made him her most trusted colleague since their Google days. You look like you haven't slept, Alex said, sliding into the seat across from her. His dark eyes carried the concern of someone who'd watched Maya navigate 3 years of corporate politics with unwavering optimism. I've been thinking. Maya wrapped her hands around her coffee cup, using the warmth to steady herself. About David. About the company. About what happens when vision becomes blind ambition. Alex's expression sharpened. He had always been able to read her subtext, a skill honed through years of translating between engineering teams and business stakeholders. What happened? Maya told him about the overheard conversation, watching his face progress through surprise, anger, and finally a cold fury that matched her own. Alex had experienced his own share of Silicon Valley assumptions, the subtle surprise when clients discovered that the charming voice on sales calls belonged to a Latino man from East LA rather than the Ivy League archetype they'd imagined. "That son of a bitch," Alex said quietly. 3 years of watching you basically run strategy while he takes credit, and he thinks you're replaceable? The question is what we do about it." Alex leaned back, studying her face. "We? I need to know if you think David is the right person to lead this company through the next phase." The question hung between them, loaded with implications. Alex had always been politically astute, understanding that survival in corporate environments required careful navigation of loyalties and interests. "Honestly, I've had concerns for months. The rushed timeline for the AI launch, his dismissal of Marcus's technical warnings, the way he talks about employees like they're replaceable components." Alex paused. "But Maya, if you're thinking what I think you're thinking, I'm thinking that maybe it's time for leadership that actually understands leadership." Their conversation was interrupted by Marcus Johnson's arrival. Maya had suggested he join them, framing it as a casual coffee meeting to discuss product strategy. Marcus looked tired, the kind of exhaustion that came from fighting losing battles against impossible timelines. "Sorry I'm late," Marcus said, settling into the third chair. David called another emergency meeting about accelerating the launch schedule. Maya exchanged a glance with Alex. "More acceleration? The timeline's already aggressive." Marcus rubbed his temples. "He wants to announce at TechCrunch Disrupt next month. Says we can't let competitors get ahead of our narrative." "What about the data privacy audits?" Alex asked. "The algorithmic bias testing?" "That's what I asked." Marcus's voice carried the frustration of someone whose expertise was being systematically ignored. "He said we can address those issues in subsequent releases. Move fast and break things, he called it." Maya felt a familiar strategic clarity settling over her. "Marcus, you've known David longer than anyone. Do you think he's making these decisions based on technical reality or investor pressure?" Marcus was quiet for a long moment. Maya could see him wrestling with loyalties that went back to college dorm rooms and shared dreams of changing the world. "I think David's lost sight of why we started this company," Marcus said finally. "We wanted to democratize AI, make it accessible and ethical. But now, it feels like he's more interested in being the face of the next big disruption than in building something sustainable." "The technical debt from rushing this launch could cripple us for years," Alex added. "Customer service AI that discriminates or violates privacy won't just hurt our reputation. It could destroy entire client relationships." Maya leaned forward slightly. "What if there was another option? A way to ensure the product launches properly, with the ethical safeguards and technical excellence our customers deserve?" Marcus's eyes narrowed. "What are you suggesting?" "I'm suggesting that maybe the person making launch decisions should be someone who actually understands both the technology and the market implications." The silence that followed was heavy with unspoken possibilities. Maya watched Marcus process the implications, seeing the moment when technical concerns overcame personal loyalty. "You're talking about challenging David," Marcus said. "I'm talking about leadership transition. It happens in companies all the time. Founders who excel at building products but struggle with scaling operations." Alex nodded slowly. "The board brought in Jennifer Walsh specifically because she has experience with these transitions. And Sarah Goldberg has been asking pointed questions about our go-to-market strategy," Maya added. "Questions that suggest she's not entirely confident in current leadership." Marcus stared into his coffee. "David and I built this company from nothing. We've been friends since sophomore year." "Which is exactly why your voice would carry weight," Maya said gently. "This isn't about destroying David. It's about ensuring Technova achieves its potential." "He'd see it as betrayal." "He'll see any challenge as betrayal," Alex pointed out. But the question is whether your loyalty is to David personally or to the company you both created. Maya pulled out her tablet, showing them a document she'd prepared. I've been analyzing our competitive position, technical capabilities, and market opportunities. We have a 6-month window before major competitors launch similar platforms. If we execute correctly, we capture significant market share. If we rush to market with a flawed product, Marcus studied her analysis, his expression growing more focused. Maya had structured the presentation to speak his language. Technical specifications, implementation timelines, risk assessments backed by data rather than ambition. This is solid work, Marcus admitted, more comprehensive than anything David's shown the board. Because I understand both the technology and the business implications, Maya said. David sees engineering as an obstacle to his vision. I see it as the foundation that makes vision possible. Alex's phone buzzed. He glanced at it and grimaced. David's calling an all-hands meeting for tomorrow morning. Exciting product announcements is all the calendar invite says. Maya felt pieces clicking into place. David was accelerating his timeline, possibly triggered by whatever intelligence Amanda was providing about board concerns. He's going to announce the launch date publicly before the technical team can raise objections. Marcus's jaw tightened. He's backing us into a corner. No, Maya said quietly. He's giving us an opportunity to demonstrate why leadership decisions should be based on competence rather than charisma. The three of them sat in the coffee shop's ambient noise, each processing the implications of what Maya was proposing. She could see the moment when Marcus's technical integrity overcame his personal loyalty, when Alex's business instincts aligned with his principles. What would you need from us? Marcus asked finally. Maya smiled, feeling the first pieces of her coalition falling into place. Just your honest assessment of what this company needs to succeed. Let the data speak for itself. The Rosewood Sandhill restaurant hummed with the quiet intensity of Silicon Valley deal-making. Maya arrived 15 minutes early, choosing a table where she could observe Sarah Goldberg's entrance. The lead investor's reputation preceded her, sharp, pragmatic, with an uncanny ability to read market trends and leadership potential. Sarah swept in precisely on time, her silver hair framing a face that had witnessed countless startup rises and falls. She moved with the confidence of someone who controlled hundreds of millions in venture capital, her handshake firm and assessing. Maya, thank you for reaching out, Sarah said, settling into her chair. Your market analysis on the AI platform has been impressive. David mentioned you're instrumental in the strategic direction. Maya noted the careful phrasing. Sarah was testing, probing for ego and ambition. Strategy is only as good as its execution. I'm concerned we might be moving too fast to ensure quality execution. Sarah's eyebrows rose slightly. Too fast? In Silicon Valley? When speed compromises ethical implementation. Maya pulled out her tablet, displaying technical specifications Marcus had shared. Our AI platform processes sensitive customer data. Rushing to market without proper bias testing and privacy safeguards could expose clients to significant liability. Sarah studied the data, her expression growing more focused. Maya watched recognition dawn. This wasn't just technical concern, but business risk assessment. David seems confident about the timeline, Sarah said carefully. David's optimism is one of his strengths. But optimism without technical grounding becomes liability. Maya leaned forward slightly. I've seen this pattern in Beijing markets. Western companies rushing to capture market share without understanding local implementation challenges. The ones that succeeded took time to build foundations properly. Sarah's interest sharpened. Your international experience gives you different perspective. It gives me appreciation for complexity that pure Silicon Valley experience sometimes misses. Markets reward sustainable innovation, not just first-mover advantage. Their conversation was interrupted by a familiar voice. Jennifer Walsh approached their table, her timing too perfect to be coincidental. Sarah, Maya, what a pleasant surprise. Jennifer's smile was professionally warm, but her eyes were calculating. Mind if I join you? I was just finishing my own lunch. Maya felt a moment of uncertainty. Was this Jennifer's natural networking, or had Sarah arranged this encounter? Either way, it represented opportunity. Of course, Maya said. We were discussing market readiness for the AI platform. Jennifer settled into the third chair, her presence immediately shifting the dynamic. The eternal startup question. When is ready enough? When technical excellence aligns with market opportunity, Maya replied. Our platform represents significant innovation, but innovation without proper implementation becomes liability. Sarah nodded. Maya was sharing concerns about our timeline. Jennifer's expression grew more serious. Given my experience with product transitions, I'd be interested in those concerns. Maya found herself presenting not just technical risks, but leadership philosophy. She spoke about sustainable growth, ethical technology implementation, and the difference between visionary thinking and practical execution. Both women listened with the attention of investors who'd seen promising companies destroyed by preventable mistakes. David's enthusiasm is valuable, Maya concluded, but this company needs leadership that balances vision with operational excellence. The subtext hung in the air, unspoken but understood. Sarah and Jennifer exchanged glances that suggested conversations Maya wasn't privy to. These are important considerations, Jennifer said finally. The board should hear this perspective. Sarah nodded slowly. Maya, would you be willing to present these concerns formally? Not as criticism, but as strategic risk assessment? Maya felt pieces aligning exactly as she'd hoped. I believe the board deserves comprehensive analysis before making launch decisions. As they parted ways, Sarah's final words carried weight. Leadership transitions are never easy, but they're sometimes necessary for company evolution. Walking to her car, Maya realized she'd crossed a threshold. She was no longer just planning David's downfall. She was positioning herself as the alternative. The thought both thrilled and terrified her. Her phone buzzed with a text from Amanda. Emergency board meeting called for Friday. David's announcing launch acceleration. Maya smiled grimly. David was forcing the confrontation, exactly as she'd anticipated. Now she just had to be ready for it. Marcus Johnson's hands trembled slightly as he closed his laptop in the Technova engineering lab. The weight of what he'd discovered pressed against his chest like a physical force. 3 weeks of intensive testing had revealed flaws in their AI platform that David refused to acknowledge. Flaws that could destroy not just Technova, but potentially dozens of client companies. Maya found him there at 11 p.m., surrounded by empty coffee cups and printouts covered in red ink. The fluorescent lights cast harsh shadows across his face, making him look older than his 31 years. Marcus? She approached carefully, recognizing the posture of someone wrestling with impossible choices. I saw your office light on. He looked up, his eyes carrying the exhaustion of someone who'd been fighting losing battles for weeks. Maya. I was about to call you. She settled into the chair beside his workstation, noting the technical documentation spread across his desk. Data privacy assessments, algorithmic bias reports, security penetration tests, all marked with failures that would terrify any responsible engineer. Talk to me, she said quietly. Marcus pulled up a series of charts on his monitor. Remember when I mentioned concerns about rushing the launch? It's worse than I thought. His voice carried the hollow tone of someone whose worst fears had been confirmed. The data told a devastating story. Their AI platform, designed to revolutionize customer service automation, contained critical vulnerabilities. The machine learning algorithms showed significant bias against certain demographic groups. The data encryption protocols had gaps that could expose sensitive customer information. The natural language processing systems misinterpreted context in ways that could lead to discriminatory outcomes. David's seen all this? Maya asked, though she already knew the answer. I presented it to him yesterday. Marcus's jaw tightened. He said we could patch these issues in post-launch updates. Said the market opportunity was too significant to delay for quote, theoretical problems. Maya felt cold anger settling in her chest. Theoretical problems? His exact words were, customers will adapt to minor quirks if the core functionality delivers value. Marcus turned to face her fully. Maya, we're talking about AI systems that could make hiring decisions, loan approvals, medical recommendations. Minor quirks could ruin lives. She studied the technical reports, her strategic mind automatically calculating the implications. Launch this platform as scheduled, and Technova would face a cascade of lawsuits within months. Regulatory scrutiny would follow. Client companies would abandon them. The damage wouldn't just destroy Technova, it would set back AI democratization by years. What did Amanda witness during your presentation? Maya asked. Marcus's expression darkened. David lost his temper when I wouldn't agree to sign off on the launch timeline. Said I was being overly cautious. That successful companies take calculated risks. He paused. Then he said something about engineers who can't see beyond their code, who don't understand the bigger picture. Maya recognized the pattern. David's dismissal of expertise that challenged his vision. What exactly did he say? That Marcus Johnson, who built this company from nothing, was different from the Marcus Johnson sitting in his office worrying about hypothetical edge cases. Marcus's voice grew quiet. He said maybe I'd lost the hunger that made us successful. The personal attack revealed David's fundamental misunderstanding of leadership. Instead of addressing technical concerns, he'd made it about Marcus's character, his commitment, his value to the company they'd built together. How did you respond? I told him that the Marcus Johnson who built this company would never ship a product that could harm people. Marcus's hands clenched into fists. He said that was exactly his point, that I'd become risk-averse, that innovation required accepting some uncertainty. Maya felt pieces crystallizing in her mind. David had crossed a line, attacking not just Marcus's technical judgment but their shared history. And Amanda heard all this? She was taking notes for the meeting summary. I could see her getting uncomfortable when David started raising his voice. Marcus turned back to his monitor. Maya, I can't be party to launching this platform as it stands. But David's made it clear that opposition to the timeline is opposition to him personally. What if there was another option? Marcus studied her face. What do you mean? I mean that maybe the person making launch decisions should be someone who understands that technical excellence isn't optional. Maya gestured to his reports. These aren't minor issues. They're fundamental flaws that responsible leadership would address. David founded this company. He brought in the investors, built the partnerships, and you built the technology that makes any of that possible. Maya's voice carried quiet conviction. Marcus, what happens to Technova's mission if we launch a discriminatory AI platform? What happens to the democratization you both dreamed about? Marcus stared at his screens, the weight of technical responsibility warring with personal loyalty. Maya could see the moment when his engineering ethics overcame his friendship obligations. The board meeting is tomorrow, he said quietly. Sarah Goldberg has been asking questions about technical readiness. Jennifer Walsh has experience with leadership transitions. Maya paused. They need to hear from the person who actually understands what we're building. Marcus nodded slowly, his decision crystallizing. I'll prepare a technical presentation. Full disclosure of the risks. Maya felt her coalition solidifying around shared principles rather than personal ambition. Marcus, this isn't about destroying David. It's about ensuring Technova lives up to its potential. I know, he said. That's what makes it necessary. The boardroom at Technova had never felt smaller. Maya sat 3 seats down from David, watching him adjust his presentation slides with the confidence of someone who believed he controlled the narrative. Sarah Goldberg and Jennifer Walsh flanked the head of the table, their expressions professionally neutral but alert. Marcus sat across from Maya, his laptop closed, technical reports stacked beside him like ammunition. Thank you all for accommodating this emergency meeting, David began, his voice carrying its familiar mix of charisma and authority. I wanted to share exciting developments that will accelerate our market position significantly. Maya observed the room's dynamics as David launched into his presentation. Charts showing projected market capture, competitive analysis positioning Technova ahead of rivals, revenue forecasts that painted a picture of inevitable success. It was masterfully crafted theater. All vision, minimal substance. The customer service AI market is exploding, David continued. First mover advantage will determine market leaders for the next decade. That's why I'm proposing we advance our launch timeline to TechCrunch Disrupt next month. Sarah's pen paused over her notes. That's significant acceleration from our previous timeline. Market opportunity doesn't wait for perfect timing. David replied smoothly. We have functional technology, proven market demand, and competitive advantages that won't last forever. Jennifer leaned forward slightly. What does our technical team think about this timeline? David's smile remained fixed, but Maya caught the micro-expression of annoyance. Marcus has been working closely with engineering to ensure readiness. All eyes turned to Marcus. Maya watched her ally take a steadying breath, recognizing the moment when technical integrity would either triumph or be silenced forever. Actually, Marcus said quietly, I have significant concerns about launch readiness. The temperature in the room seemed to drop. David's expression shifted from confidence to barely contained irritation. Marcus, we discussed this. We discussed your dismissal of critical technical issues. Marcus opened his laptop, his voice growing stronger. Issues that could expose the company to substantial legal and reputational risk. Maya felt the power dynamics shifting as Marcus projected his technical analysis. Data privacy vulnerabilities, algorithmic bias patterns, security flaws. Each slide methodically dismantling David's rush-to-market strategy. Sarah's expression grew increasingly grave. These are substantial technical concerns. They're manageable post-launch optimizations, David interjected, his tone carrying an edge of desperation. Marcus is being overly conservative. Innovation requires accepting calculated risks. Calculated risks? Marcus's voice carried months of suppressed frustration. David, this AI system shows measurable bias against minority applicants in hiring scenarios. Our encryption protocols have vulnerabilities that could expose customer data. These aren't calculated risks. They're reckless endangerment. Jennifer's pen moved rapidly across her notepad. Have alternative timelines been considered? Maya recognized her moment. I've prepared an analysis addressing these concerns, she said, activating her own presentation. David's head snapped toward her, surprise and anger warring in his expression. Maya, this isn't. Technical excellence should inform strategic decisions, Maya continued smoothly, her slides complementing Marcus's technical data with market analysis. Launching a flawed product doesn't just risk Technova, it jeopardizes every client company that depends on our platform. Her presentation painted a different picture. Sustainable growth built on ethical foundations, market capture through superior quality rather than rushed timing, competitive advantage through responsible innovation. Every point was backed by data, every projection grounded in technical reality. Sarah studied Maya's analysis intently. This suggests a 6-month delay could actually strengthen our market position. 6 months we can't afford, David protested, his composure finally cracking. Our competitors aren't waiting for perfect solutions. They're shipping functional products and iterating based on market feedback. Functional products that don't discriminate or expose sensitive data, Marcus replied firmly. David's face flushed. Marcus, your perfectionism has always been a limitation. Sometimes leadership means making difficult decisions that engineers don't understand. The personal attack hung in the air like a physical blow. Maya watched Jennifer's expression harden. She'd witnessed enough leadership transitions to recognize when founders became their own worst enemies. Perhaps, Jennifer said carefully, we should consider whether current leadership is equipped to navigate these complex technical and ethical challenges. Sarah nodded slowly. I share concerns about rushing to market with unresolved technical issues. Our reputation with portfolio companies depends on responsible innovation. Maya felt the room's energy shifting irreversibly. David seemed to sense it too, his desperation becoming more apparent. I founded this company, he said, voice rising slightly. I brought in every investor in this room, built every partnership we have. You're talking about abandoning proven leadership for theoretical concerns. We're talking about ensuring Technova achieves its mission responsibly, Maya replied quietly. The question isn't who founded the company, it's who can lead it forward ethically. Silence settled over the boardroom. Maya could see calculations happening behind every pair of eyes, risk assessments, leadership evaluations, future projections. The coup was no longer hidden. It was happening in real time. Jennifer closed her notepad with deliberate finality. I think we need to discuss leadership structure for the next phase of company growth. David's expression crumbled as he realized the battle was already lost. The next 2 weeks transformed Technova into a battlefield masked as business as usual. Maya sat in her office reviewing candidate evaluation criteria the board had distributed, knowing that David was receiving the same documents 3 floors above. The formal leadership review process had begun, but the real campaign was happening in conference rooms, coffee conversations, and carefully orchestrated encounters throughout the building. Amanda knocked softly and entered, carrying what appeared to be routine correspondence but speaking in low, urgent tones. David's scheduled meetings with every department head this week. He's promising promotions, budget increases, whatever it takes to secure loyalty. Maya nodded, having anticipated David's desperation tactics. What's the response been? Mixed. Engineering is largely with Marcus, especially after word spread about the technical risks David wanted to ignore. Sales is split. Some appreciate his vision, others worry about promising features we can't deliver safely. Through her office window, Maya could see David in the central workspace, his usual confident demeanor intact, but his movements betraying underlying tension. He was working the room with characteristic charm, but she noticed employees responding with polite attention rather than genuine enthusiasm. Alex appeared in her doorway, his expression carrying the weight of difficult conversations. I've been talking to the West Coast sales team. They're asking hard questions about product reliability after some competitor intelligence surfaced about our technical delays. What kind of intelligence? Nothing specific, but enough to make clients nervous about betting their customer service operations on unproven technology. Alex settled into the chair across from her desk. David's been telling them we're launching on schedule regardless, but Marcus's team is quietly pushing back on impossible deadlines. Maya felt the complexity of corporate politics playing out exactly as she'd predicted. David's authority was based on charisma and founder status, but authority without competence created instability that rippled through every department. Her phone buzzed with a text from Marcus. Emergency engineering meeting. David's demanding we sign off on launch timeline by tomorrow. Maya understood the escalation. David was forcing a crisis, believing he could pressure Marcus into compliance through public confrontation. It was precisely the kind of tactical error that revealed his fundamental misunderstanding of leadership dynamics. 20 minutes later, Maya stood outside the engineering conference room, watching through glass walls as David addressed Marcus's team. His body language was aggressive, finger-pointing at technical specifications projected on the screen. Marcus sat rigid in his chair, flanked by senior engineers, whose expressions ranged from uncomfortable to openly hostile. Amanda appeared beside her, pretending to deliver documents while providing crucial intelligence. He's telling them that engineering perfectionism is holding back the company's growth, that customers care more about innovation than theoretical edge cases. Maya watched one of the senior engineers stand up and walk out mid-presentation. Then another. David's voice rose, but his audience was literally disappearing. That's not going well, Amanda observed. No, Maya agreed. It's going exactly as it needed to. Within an hour, Maya's office had become an unofficial gathering point for concerned employees. Not a planned meeting, but organic coalition building around shared principles. Marcus arrived looking shell-shocked, followed by 3 engineering managers and 2 product designers. He's lost engineering, Marcus said simply. Completely. Alex nodded grimly. Sales isn't far behind. Clients are starting to ask specifically about technical leadership and product reliability. Maya looked around the room at faces that reflected her own journey. People who had believed in meritocracy, in the power of competence to overcome politics, now recognizing that sometimes good people had to fight for the right to do good work. The board presentation is tomorrow, she said quietly. Final candidate evaluations. Are you ready? Marcus asked. Maya thought about the shy girl from Detroit, who had believed that working twice as hard would be enough. About the strategic mind that had learned to see patterns others missed. About the leader she was becoming through necessity rather than ambition. I'm ready, she said. The boardroom had been reconfigured for presentations, with a large screen dominating one wall and chairs arranged in a semicircle that somehow felt more like a tribunal than a corporate meeting. Maya arrived 15 minutes early, using the time to center herself and review her presentation one final time. This wasn't just about challenging David anymore. It was about proving she could lead Technova into its next phase of growth. Sarah Goldberg and Jennifer Walsh entered together, their quiet conversation ending as they took their seats. 2 additional board members had joined via video conference, their faces filling screens mounted on the side walls. The weight of decision-making felt palpable in the room's silence. David arrived precisely on time, his characteristic confidence intact, but carrying an edge of desperation that Maya had learned to recognize. He nodded professionally to the board members, avoiding her gaze entirely. "Thank you all for your time during this critical evaluation period," Jennifer began. "We'll hear presentations from both candidates, followed by board discussion and decision. David, as current CEO, you'll present first." David's presentation was masterful theater. He spoke passionately about Technova's founding vision, the breakthrough innovations they'd achieved, the market opportunities that awaited aggressive action. His slides painted a picture of Silicon Valley's success: rapid growth, disruptive technology, competitive dominance through bold decision-making. "Innovation requires courage," David concluded, his voice carrying the evangelical fervor that had inspired investors 3 years earlier. "The companies that hesitate, that overthink, that let perfectionism paralyze progress, those companies become footnotes in other people's success stories." Maya watched the board members' faces, seeing polite attention, but no longer the captivated enthusiasm David expected. His charisma remained potent, but charisma without substance had diminishing returns with sophisticated audiences. "Thank you, David," Jennifer said. Maya stood, feeling the weight of transformation, from the overlooked strategist who had trusted in merit to the leader who understood that merit sometimes required strategic advocacy. Her first slide was simple: Technova's mission statement about democratizing ethical AI. "This company was founded on a promise," she began quietly. "The promise that artificial intelligence could be a force for equity, accessibility, and human empowerment. The question before us today isn't about growth rates or market capture. It's about whether we'll keep that promise." Her presentation methodically dismantled the rush-to-market strategy, but not through criticism of David. Instead, she built a compelling case for sustainable excellence. Technical demonstrations showed how proper bias testing would create superior products. Market analysis revealed how ethical AI platforms commanded premium pricing and customer loyalty. Financial projections demonstrated that quality-focused development yielded higher long-term returns than rushed releases. "Our customers aren't just buying software," Maya continued, her confidence growing with each slide. "They're trusting us with their reputation, their customer relationships, their regulatory compliance. That trust requires leadership that understands both technological possibility and ethical responsibility." She clicked to her final slide, a roadmap for Technova's next 3 years that balanced innovation with implementation excellence, growth with sustainability, vision with operational competence. "David built this company from an idea into a market contender," Maya concluded. "The question now is, who can lead it from contender to industry standard bearer? Leadership that our employees trust, our customers depend on, and our investors can support with confidence." Silence filled the room as Maya returned to her seat. She had presented not just an alternative strategy, but an alternative philosophy of leadership itself. Sarah spoke first. "Maya, your technical analysis addresses concerns we've been tracking for months. How do you plan to balance innovation with the conservative approach your presentation suggests?" "Conservative execution of innovative ideas," Maya replied. "We can be the first to market with ethical AI that actually works, rather than the first to market with AI that creates liability." Jennifer turned to David. "How do you respond to the technical concerns that have been raised repeatedly?" David's composure finally cracked. "Jennifer, with respect, we're letting engineer perfectionism paralyze business opportunity. Maya's analysis assumes competitors will wait while we over-optimize. The market doesn't reward hesitation. It also doesn't reward products that discriminate or violate privacy," Sarah pointed out. David's voice rose slightly. "I've built this company from nothing. I know what it takes to succeed in Silicon Valley. These technical concerns are manageable. They're not reasons to abandon proven leadership for theoretical alternatives. Maya felt the moment crystallize. David's response revealed everything the board needed to know about his leadership philosophy: dismissive of expertise, impatient with accountability, unable to distinguish between calculated risk and reckless endangerment. David, Jennifer said carefully, we appreciate your contributions to Technova's foundation, but we need leadership for the next phase that integrates vision with operational excellence. Sarah nodded. The motion before us is CEO transition, effective immediately, with Maya Williams assuming leadership responsibilities. The vote was swift and decisive. 4 votes in favor, 1 abstention, 0 opposition. David sat motionless for several seconds, the reality of his defeat settling over him like a weight. When he finally spoke, his voice carried bitter resignation. This company was my vision. Without me, without you, we'll become what you intended us to be, Maya interrupted gently. A company that democratizes AI responsibly. David gathered his materials and left without another word, his departure marking the end of one era and the beginning of another. Maya looked around the boardroom at faces that now looked to her for leadership, feeling the full weight of what she had won and what it would cost her to prove worthy of keeping it. Maya's new corner office still smelled like David's cologne, a ghost of leadership past that seemed to mock her every decision. 2 weeks into her tenure as CEO, she stared at the organizational chart spread across her desk, each name representing someone whose loyalty she'd either inherited or earned. The divisions were becoming clear, and they weren't as simple as she'd anticipated. Amanda knocked and entered with the morning briefings. Her role transformed from David's secretary to Maya's executive assistant. The promotion had been Maya's first decision, both practical and symbolic, rewarding the woman whose discomfort with David's dismissiveness had provided crucial intelligence. The development team is requesting another meeting about the AI platform timeline, Amanda reported. They're concerned about the 6-month delay affecting our competitive position. Maya nodded, understanding the irony. She'd fought David's rushed timeline, but now faced pressure from engineers worried about market opportunities slipping away. Leadership, she was learning, meant disappointing everyone equally while keeping the company moving forward. Her phone buzzed with an incoming call from Rebecca. Maya had been avoiding her sister's calls for 3 days, not ready to face the moral reckoning that conversation would bring. You've been elected CEO of a major tech company and you haven't called your own sister? Rebecca's voice carried hurt beneath the attempted levity. I've been adjusting to the responsibilities, Maya replied, closing her office door. Or avoiding the conversation about how you got there. The accusation hung between them like smoke. Maya settled into her chair, looking out at the Technova workspace where employees moved with the careful energy of people adjusting to new leadership. David was destroying the company, Rebecca. The technical flaws alone would have. Maya. Rebecca's voice carried the authority she used in courtrooms. I'm not questioning whether David needed to go. I'm questioning what you became in the process of removing him. Maya felt the weight of that assessment. She'd told herself the story of justice, of preventing harm, of ensuring Technova achieved its ethical mission. But in quiet moments, she wondered if those were justifications for more basic drives: ambition, revenge, the satisfaction of proving David wrong about her replaceability. You want me to feel guilty for outmaneuvering someone who saw me as disposable? I want you to acknowledge what you sacrificed to win. Rebecca's voice softened. The Maya I knew believed in direct confrontation, in changing systems through institutional processes. You chose manipulation instead. I chose effectiveness. And what did that choice cost you? Maya looked at her reflection in the office window, seeing someone she barely recognized. The idealistic strategist who'd believed in merit-based advancement had been replaced by someone who understood power dynamics with calculating precision. A soft knock interrupted her thoughts. Marcus stood in the doorway, his expression serious. Rebecca, I need to go, Maya said, ending the call without waiting for a response. Marcus closed the door behind him and settled into the chair across from her desk. We have a problem. 3 senior engineers submitted resignations this morning. Maya felt her stomach tighten. David loyalists? No, that's what makes it concerning. These are people who supported your leadership during the transition. Marcus handed her the resignation letters. They're citing, quote, cultural concerns and, quote, unclear company direction. Maya scanned the letters, recognizing the careful language of professionals who didn't want to burn bridges. Between the lines, she read a different message. These engineers had expected her leadership to feel different from David's, and somehow it didn't. What are they really saying, Marcus? That watching you orchestrate David's removal made them nervous about their own job security. If you could systematically undermine a founder and CEO, what stops you from doing the same to them? The observation hit like a physical blow. Maya had focused so intently on proving her competence that she'd forgotten to consider how her methods would affect others' trust in her leadership. "They're afraid of me," she said quietly. "Not afraid, wary. There's a difference, but the result is the same. Employees who don't feel secure enough to take risks, to innovate, to challenge ideas constructively." Maya realized she faced a paradox of her own creation. Her strategic brilliance in removing David had demonstrated capabilities that now made employees question whether she could be trusted with their careers, their ideas, their vulnerabilities. "How do I fix this?" Marcus leaned forward, his expression carrying the weight of their shared history. "By remembering why you wanted this position in the first place. Was it to prove David wrong, or to build something better?" Maya stared at the resignation letters, understanding that her real test as a leader wasn't about strategic planning or corporate maneuvering. It was about earning the kind of trust that couldn't be calculated or orchestrated. The trust that came from people believing she genuinely cared about their success, not just her own. 6 months later, Maya stood at the podium of the TechCrunch Disrupt stage, watching industry journalists lean forward as she demonstrated Technova's ethically tested AI platform. The product launch that David had wanted to rush was now happening on her timeline, thoroughly tested, bias-free, and commanding premium pricing that validated her patient approach. "This is what responsible innovation looks like," Maya concluded, her voice carrying confidence earned through results rather than rhetoric. In the audience, she spotted a familiar face. David Morrison sat 3 rows back, older-looking but attentive. Their eyes met briefly. No anger now, just mutual recognition of what each had learned about leadership and its costs. After the presentation, Maya found herself facing a new crisis. A competitor's AI platform had just launched with features suspiciously similar to Technova's proprietary algorithms, the kind of challenge that tested whether her leadership could transcend its origins. Her phone buzzed with a text from Rebecca. "Watched the launch. Proud of the leader you've become." Maya smiled, understanding that her sister was acknowledging not just professional success, but moral growth. The woman who had orchestrated David's removal had evolved into someone who could build something better. She gathered her team around her, ready to face this new challenge the way she'd learned to lead, with competence, integrity, and the hard-won wisdom that real leadership was measured not by how you gained power, but by what you built with it. Up next, you've got 2 more standout stories right on your screen. If this one hit the mark, you won't want to pass these up. Just click and check them out. And don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any upload from us.